Over the last week, we've had 2 new students at Warrior Trading who've earned their $1 million badge. I am so thrilled. In today's episode, I'm gonna be interviewing one of them. His name is Timmy. He's a day trader from Alabama. The last time we heard from Timmy, it was just after he had earned his $50,000 badge. That's when we did our first interview. That was about a year and a half ago. Now, he's already over $1 million. I'm so excited for him. His story is really inspiring. I think you'll enjoy hearing it. One of the questions that I asked him, I said, Timmy, let's just assume during the week that you first started trading, there were 100,000 other traders that began. A lot of them have since failed. What was it that you did differently that allowed you to have this success? And that is a question that you have to stay tuned to hear his answer for. Let's go ahead and jump in to today's interview. But let me remind you, as always, that trading is risky. My results aren't typical, and neither are Timmy's. So please take it slow. And remember to always practice in a simulator before putting real money on the line. Let's go ahead and dive into today's interview. What sparked your interest in the market? What made you want to be a day trader? Like, why not something else? Why not swing trade? Or why not trade Forex or whatever? Like, why'd you choose stocks and why day trading?
Sure, that's a good question. I think for me, I always thought about where could I make the most money in kind of the quickest amount of time. I had
Okay.
started a couple other companies, pressure washing business. I did Amazon FBA, selling books on Amazon, and affiliate marketing. I tried that, but I was always trying to find like where do I feel like I can make good money and not have to work a crazy amount of hours and kind of have the financial, freedom and flexibility that comes with being your own boss. And then I found trading. I think it was Timothy Sykes was the first ever person I saw, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then I stumbled across you because my algorithm was just like kind of going that way. And it was like, okay, now this is more tailored to what I feel like I could actually see myself doing. I'm like, okay, here's a lot of videos. You had a bunch of videos at the time, kind of going over concepts and stuff. And that's where I was like, okay, this is immediately I was like, yep, I could definitely see myself doing this. I knew it would be kind of like almost like a pipe dream because 90% of traders lose. And I was like, okay, it's going to take me a long time. But thankfully, I was, 18 at the time. So, or actually, probably 17 when I first started just nibbling into some stuff. So I was like, okay, I've got a lot of time. I can do this alongside other stuff. That's what I really love about trading is like, okay, a couple hours a day. And, I used to just trade 1 hour a day and then I'd go work and come
Right.
back and was able to make a good, side income off of that. So it was great.
I remember when we did the first interview right after you'd gotten your 50K badge, you were talking about that routine because had your pressure washing business, which you told me you would create with a partner, and you now let the partner basically run it. So that's cool. So you were doing your pressure washing in the afternoon. Basically, like you would trade for an hour or two, and then you would go do the pressure washing for the rest of the day. So it was like even if you had a bad day trading, you had your other business that you would focus on so you wouldn't get caught in that dangerous trap that a lot of beginner traders fall into, which is I'm red and now I'm going to spend my time making back that money, trying to make it back. Like, over trading, revenge trading. You instead would make it back the hard way, which is pressure washing buildings in Alabama, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but that's a good job.
Yeah, and it was great because then I don't have okay, I didn't make money today trading, but I know I'm about to go make some money. So it's like,
Exactly.
okay, I don't have like where even nowadays I have some side incomes to where like it's not like, okay, if I make no money trading, I'm still gonna be okay. And that's the
Right.
beautiful part about trading in general. You don't have to trade all day. And for the most
Yeah.
part, I never do unless the market's super, super hot, because
Right.
then it makes sense to. But I used to never make money after the first just hour or two, or I didn't even make money into the market open at the start. It was just pre-market trading for 2 years. So
And I love that. Now, one thing
yeah,
I would say is a lot of beginner traders, and perhaps people tuning in for this episode, will come to the table when it comes to trading with the expectation that the more money you have, the more money you'll make, that it takes a lot of money to make money trading. And I think that while there is some truth to that, if you have more money in your account, you can take bigger positions. I actually think that there's a blessing that comes with having a small account and being younger because 2 reasons. Number one, rock bottom is very close. So if you blow up a $500 account, you feel devastated. Like, oh my God, I blew up my account. I'm an idiot. But it's only 500 bucks. But the lesson that you experience from blowing up an account of 500, it's the same learning that you would have if you lost 25 grand, which is what often happens when you're in your 30s or 40s or 50s and you just have more money. The blow up is bigger. It costs more. Same lesson, but it's more expensive. And then the second thing is that when you have a small account, you're basically forced to be more disciplined in your trading. Because if you make mistakes, I mean, basically, you don't have enough buying power. Your account gets locked until you add more money. So you're constantly getting this kind of, it's like reinforcement from the market. You make a mistake, and now the penalty is bigger because now you can't trade for a couple days. So, like, I actually think, if you want to look at the glass half full, and you should always should, why not? That there is a benefit of coming to the table with less. And so you came to the table young, which is great because you've got all this time, with other side hustles that were producing some profit, and saying, well, I'm only going to put this much into trading and I'm going to start small. So you, like a lot of beginner traders, I know you jumped in and started trading with real money, lost money, and then you're like, I need to start using a simulator. So
Yeah.
tell me about what the simulator was like, because you used our simulator at Warrior Trading.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, the simulator was great because the only, I mean, you have to go into it knowing that, okay, the fills may not be perfect, but for the most part, it's very, very similar to exactly how you're going to trade.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a little bit of, variation there, but I tried to think about it like it was real money. And that's huge. You got to think about it like it's real money.
Yeah.
And the simulator was the exact layout and everything that I was trading with. I mean, everything looked the same.
Yeah.
Whenever I got out of the simulator, I made sure to set everything up exactly the same way that I had it in the simulator,
Okay.
just so that I still felt like it was very normal, very
Yeah.
like comfortable almost to a certain extent. Where,
Yeah.
after months and months of doing that, it's like, okay, if I have a bad day, I never had a day where I was like red 1,000 in the simulator or anything like that, because I
Right.
still kept it just like I would have
Awesome.
right over when I did go over PDT, because I kind of thought about it the same way as like when I was in Sure Trader, where
Yeah.
I had just I think it was $1,000 account to start. I
Right.
was like,
Sure
okay,
Trader, by the way, for those of you guys tuning
yeah,
in,
it's
they're a broker that was around for maybe like 5 years in the 2010 through 2000 like 18 or 19, and then they went under. They were a Bahamas broker, offshore broker, so they allowed you to day trade 6 times leverage with $500.
yeah,
So they're gone, but there's new brokers now that have kind of taken their place.
exactly.
What is it, CMEG and then
That's
Ocean
unique.
One? Those are the two that are popular. So
Yeah.
okay, so continue.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, so I had a very similar capital basically. Let's say like in my mind, I'm like, okay, I've got just a couple thousand that I'm gonna kind of play with. And that's how I did it in the simulator. And the first couple months I did not do well in the simulator, but I was like, okay, thankfully I'm still able to build up cash by pressure washing and doing whatever else I had, because I really didn't have a choice. I mean, there's no way I could have gotten over PDT at that time, which was also a blessing, because then I wasn't in the back of my mind like, okay, I had one good month, let me throw money in and go over PDT, which could have been a disaster for sure. So I made sure to just be like, okay, unless I get at least 3 months of consistent profitability, I'm not even going to start funding an account. So I did that. After like the first 3 months were a little choppy, and then the 3 months after that were a lot cleaner. Me just trading pre-market about an hour before the bell ish, and then I would go either to my college classes or to go pressure wash, one of the two, and just kind of building base hits. Very, I'm a dip trader, so that was kind of like where I kind of found my niche, and then from there funded the account at TradeStation and just put a little $2,000 over PDT buffer, and kind of thought about it the exact same way. So just small wins, never more than 100, 200 shares to start. And then I worked my way up to 500, and from there, yeah.
So what was your average daily goal when you were in the sim?
It was like $100. Yeah, super
Awesome.
normal. I was like, if I can just make 100, $200 a day, that's 50K a year. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that was my normal goal. Was like $250 was my like a great day. But I was like, if I can get $100 a day, my other side business was, more than that anyways. So I'm like, okay, I can add that onto this. I'll be
Yeah.
making pretty good money just by myself, work for myself
Absolutely.
already. So
Yeah. And the cost of living in Alabama, I don't imagine is
yeah.
high, right?
No, no. So it's going to
Right.
be like all my expenses around 1,000, $1,200 a month. That's
Amazing.
car insurance,
Yeah.
gas, rent, everything.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right. So you're doing $100 a day. So now fast forward today. Do you have daily goal today?
today I try to not come into the market with any expectations per
Okay.
se, just because it's gotten me kind of in the past to where I'm like, oh, I need to make 1,000 every
Mm,
day. And
mm,
then there's days where past couple days for me have been tough, and it's like if I keep trying to make money every day, then some days you just snowball into super red. So
right.
what I like to do is just
Okay.
go in with no real expectations. But if I do see something that I like, okay, I'm looking to make, a couple thousand or whatever it may be, and then just kind of build on that with more base hits. Because I'm never really swinging for the fence.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of just base hits, base hits. And that's kind of how I like to build my day. So I'm not risking all the profit that I've, had from
Right.
earlier in the day.
Around approximately how did you finish last year?
Last year was I traded my Roth IRA and my personal account. It was
Okay.
just over $1 million last year, so which was awesome after fees. It was like 1.1 million. And
That
thankfully in
is,
my Roth, I was able to take some of that taxable income
yeah,
out, but it was still, yeah, it was ridiculous because the year prior, I kind of turned the corner around July,
yeah,
and that year I finished up about 320,000, 330, which
right.
was phenomenal for me. I'm like, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, right.
And
And
then
that's
first,
what I remember because we had
yeah,
done a rookie versus pro challenge where
yeah.
we were trading side by side for it was like a month, just kind of for fun, just to see like how we did. And I remember at that time you already had your 50K and you were coming up to 500K, and so it was like 500K was the next mark, and then yeah, then this just past year I knew you had just blown it out of the water. So like that's the incredible thing that I often say about trading is that so ultimately you spent several years practicing, being interested in the market, doing a little bit of the sure trader, blowing up the account, then trading in the sim, then trading with real money but with small size, right? So it's like you got all this time keeping your head above water, survive to thrive, gaining a lot of experience, picking up this, sort of your own refined sense of like intuition, developing your strategy. And then you get to a point where it's like, if I'm consistently doing $100 a day, the only difference between 100 and 150 is jumping my share size up a little bit. 150 to 300, double the size. 300 to 600, double again. How many times can you double? Now, as I do, but beginners tuning in might not know, that there is a limit to how many times you can double. I mean, you can go from 100 to 200 to 400 to 800 to 1600 to 3200, 6400, 12,000, 24,000, 48,000, 96,000 shares, 200,000. I mean, are there people out there that trade 200,000 share positions? I see it, but mostly on the cheaper stocks. But, that's where you're starting to kind of push it. So like, sometimes people will say, Ross, or they might even say this to you, Tim, you turned a small account into over $1 million. How about I give you $1 million? Can you turn it into 100 million? And what would you say? I mean,
Yeah, I've had people actually come to me and be like, "Hey, can you invest my money
sure.
or whatever?" And I wish I could. I wish there was like an infinite capital that we could, like you're saying, just double up to a million
Yeah.
shares.
Right.
But it's like with small caps. I mean, even for me, I even over 10,000 sides. It's
Yeah.
slippage and all those other things where
Yeah.
for me to kind of take that kind of size, I almost have to look for bigger picture moves and that kind of
Yeah.
thing, which is a little bit of a different strategy. But
Yeah.
you can still make a great amount of money with just 3 to 5,000 shares. I mean, and that was for me for a long time. I was like 2,000 shares maximum, and
Yeah.
I was still making thousands of dollars a day. So
Yeah.
just really keeping that risk tight. And I mean, during certain periods, there's so many opportunities that you can make, you know, huge parts of your year just in a couple months, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what has happened for me over the last year. I mean, there's a couple months where I'm like small green-ish, which relatively speaking for me now is like 20 to 50K months,
Yeah.
and then you have some that are over six figures, and that kind of are
Right.
the months that really bring it in. So
Right. That's so you show up every day, right?
yeah,
No days off. And that's
no,
same with
I
me. You
it's a
can't afford it. You can't risk it.
no, and I mean when I'm on vacation, I try to take more time off, but it's one of those things that yeah, I love the market and I love what I do just like you do.
Yeah.
So it's hard for us to take time off when it's
Yeah.
like, man, I'm doing what I love. So it's
Right.
not really work per se.
Right. Yeah, a couple hours a day. It feels worth it. And it feels for me, and I think for you too, I have to show up every day because I just never know. Today might be a nothing day, might be a small day, small red day, small green day, or this could be the best day of the year because so much of our trading is based on companies putting out breaking news. And we don't know when the news is going to come out. So all of a sudden you have a company like a biotech company that drops, that they've got great clinical trials on a cancer treatment, and the stock goes up 700% in one day. From $3 to whatever it is, $20, $30 a share. I mean, we've seen this happen, and it's like that right there with 10,000 shares could have been 100 grand easily, even if you don't capture the whole move, just pieces of it. So for me, showing up every single day, that's part of the job. Being willing to commit to a schedule. Even if it is only, I mean, if you could only do 3 days a week, that's the best you could do. But trying to be consistent about committing to a schedule, because you just never
Yeah,
know.
I agree. Exactly, because those couple days, and that's exactly how some months for me have been, especially on the slower months. There's that one day that can make your whole month.
Right.
And if you miss that, you're really one beating yourself up because you're like,
Yeah.
why did I not come in today? And
Yeah.
then it's also like that can snowball into you coming in the next day trying to make what everybody else made the previous day, and then you get into a drawdown. So
Right.
it's a very fine line for sure.
So here's a question for you. Now, when you got started, who knows? At the time you got started, let's just say there were, 100,000 other traders that started on that same day as you or that same week as you. Statistically, we know probably 90% of them aren't still trading, but you are. So, what is it that you think you did differently that allowed you to get to where you're at today? Looking back, what was it that was like, I'm really glad I did this?
I would say, like we were talking about earlier, starting kind of how I did, where it was like a blessing and a curse, me blowing up that first account with super small money. Cause I was like, I already had that feeling of, okay, I'm never going to do that again. And what happened was me averaging down into a snowball, massive loss, which
Yeah.
is something that you talk about. And, I had to learn the hard way. And I did. And that lesson stuck with me for a long, long time. And I still, to this day, have never had a huge loss by averaging it down on a position
I'm going to
just
knock
because
on wood
that
for you.
loss. Yeah, right. Just because that loss was so painful to me. And at the time, because that was like all the money I had, I didn't even want to tell anybody I knew, my mom, whatever. It
I
just like it
know.
was so
Yeah.
so brutal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say that lesson. And then in general, I always go back to risk management because for me, it's always about that basically. How can I have my risk be the tightest it can be and still be able to profit? Because even right now, I'm in a little bit of a drawdown. I go back to my basics. Okay, what am I the best at? Let me lower my size a little bit. And it's all about the risk management because right now it's still like I'm in like a 1% drawdown over my total gains over my career. So it's like perspective wise, it's not bad, but that's how I like to keep it because once you get into 10% drawdown, it can take months to get out of that. So try to stay near my P&L highs as much as I can, really keep those red days smaller, which right now I'm kind of struggling with that. So if you're there and you're thinking that even the great traders don't struggle, oh, we do. We still struggle every day to not try to do bad things and create bad habits, which down the road could lead to probably where I'm in right now, certain bad habits I've kind of held on to a little more than I should have. And now I got to go back to my basics.
Well, to help you not beat yourself up too much, one thing I would say is that something I see a lot of traders do, and I think it's a healthy thing, is that when the market's hot, you start taking more risk and you start venturing out a little bit into different variations of strategies. You might say, oh, this dip's been working well, but then you start realizing these certain breakouts also work pretty well. And so you sort of start to test different things. And then when the market slows down, you're going to realize, okay, I need to bring it back in a little bit. But when you bring it back in, each time you expand, you end up picking up things that when you bring it back in, you want to keep them. So it's like every time you kind of go through these expansion and then contractions, I feel like you become a better trader as a result. Because that's the thing, like we're even me today, like I'm still learning new stuff. I'm still recognizing new patterns. I'm still trying to improve as a trader. So, I wouldn't beat yourself up too much, but I also think that the maybe that aspect of you is also, I think, a characteristic that a lot of successful traders have of not being satisfied with their performance, which is important because then you're pushing yourself to do better. And so did you ever do any sports in school?
Yeah, yeah. So my whole life from wrestling when I was like from 4 years old to
Wow.
16, I wrestled. And then from there, it was like football and
Yeah.
baseball, mainly football from there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've always been sports competitive.
Yeah.
Wrestling, because I grew up in Oregon, is like super competitive.
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
like, that's why I started that. And then, yeah,
Yeah.
from then on, it's just always been kind of with that competitive nature,
Yep.
but on like a good degree. I try to be nowadays like comparison, but being happy for those other people and then
Okay.
seeing where you can go from there. So it's almost like seeing, you back in the day, like, oh wow, he's making X amount of money,
Right.
kind of opens up my worldview of like, okay, I could do that too someday,
Yep.
maybe in my own way, but
Sure.
it's still like it's possible with the market. So it's a
Yeah.
very fine line to not like I do the same thing now where I'm like, oh, this guy made more than me.
Hmm.
I should be better tomorrow. But it's
Right.
everybody trades a little differently. And
Yeah.
then it's like I'd much be happier, like we were talking about earlier, making a couple, more consistent money than
Yeah.
having the big swings in our P&L because then instrumentals just much tougher for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that saying, I think comparison is the thief of joy, um, which is really hard for traders because you always see people who make more money than you. And there's always going to be someone out there. There's only one person who can ever be the person who made the most. Like, so basically everyone in the world can make that comparison of, oh, there's someone who's making more money than me. And it can make you feel, if you let it, it can make you feel really unsatisfied with where you're at. And so I try to, remind myself when I get into that mode of, oh gosh, this person made, 1 million today and I only made 100,000. That first of all, take a moment to look at what you have. Because when you're saying I only, suddenly it's like, are you not grateful for what you made? $100,000 in one day. I mean, even if it's far less than that, it's something you should really be grateful for. And so it's like keeping it in perspective. Yeah, it's good to be inspired by other people and have that maybe drive you to improve in your own trading, but not to spend all your time focusing on someone else's profits and losses because their risk management, that's different from you. And you know what? If at some point they end up taking a multi-million-dollar loss, well, then it's like all that time you spend envying them. And then at the end of the day that maybe they blow up their account. So like, you don't know what's going to happen. So don't spend all your time focusing on other people. Use them in a healthy way to give you inspiration, to learn from them, what's working for them in the market. What can I learn about, the way they trade that I could implement in my own trading? And then keep your head down and grind and focus on locking up those base hits. Because I feel like so many traders, they overlook just locking up that consistent 15, 25 cents a share per day. 1,000 shares, it's $250, right?
Yep.
It's like, don't overcomplicate this. That's the thing. So when you were getting started, certainly at SureTrader and these commission-free broker, or these offshore brokers, you pay a commission. So in those days, were you trading quite a bit less, kind of like a very precision, like getting in, getting out, and then not over trading?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of when I was just starting. So I
Yeah.
was trying to, yes, but then
Okay.
I would give in to sort of whatever certain
Okay.
over trading habits. But because the commissions were, I mean, I think it was $15 on the way in and the way out
Yeah.
at SureTrader, which is, I mean, ridiculous. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very, very hard to make money. And even at some of the brokers now in the offshore, it's still like taking 1 cent or 2 cents away
Yeah.
from, whatever trade you're in.
Yeah.
And I kind of like, okay, I did a lot of churning. Thankfully, I was like getting all my stats and my trades. I was reviewing them and kind of like had a catalog. So I was like, okay, without the commissions, I actually wasn't as red as I thought. I was like, okay, mainly I'm just churning because of the commissions, but some of my trades weren't exactly terrible. So I at
Yeah.
least took some good from that. And then when I was in the simulator, I tried to emulate the same thing where, I'm just taking, small base hits. And in there, I knew, okay, there's no commission. But in my head, I was still thinking, okay, there's going to be some commission because at the time there was no free commission brokers or anything. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to do that, but it won't be near as bad at E-Trade or wherever than it is at CMEG or whatever other offshore broker at the time. I think it was like F1 Trade and some other ones. But anyways, yeah, so I made sure to just go back to like starting, like you were saying, starting small and then just building on that. Cause yeah, it's, perspective is everything. $250 a day in, a lot of countries is ridiculous money. And even in the US, that's great money, and if you can make that in 1 hour, who can make that in an hour? It's like, and you don't have a whole lot of gas to go there or wherever, commute to your work, all that stuff, which takes time that people don't get paid for. So there's so many things that I take for granted with, the beauty of trading that I used to like, I don't know, like you're saying, you don't want to always compare yourself to things because then you're not truly happy. And it's like you got to just keep yourself grounded, go back to like why you're here for the freedom. A couple thousand here or there isn't going to change my life.
Yep.
That's why it's like I better be consistent and have a better headspace than be
Yeah.
swinging super crazy, which some personalities, I think it goes into personalities for trading too. Some people just are risk takers and they
Yeah, they
just
are. Yeah.
be okay taking a much higher level of risk, which
Right.
for me, I've never really been that way. So
Something I tell myself when I'm having a bad day is, will you even remember the stocks you traded today, like a week from now? And so the last bad day I had was, it was like 3 weeks ago, and I don't remember the tickers at this point. It's already like, I remember how much I lost on that day, but I don't remember the tickers I traded. So it's like, I kind of remind myself, if I'm not even going to remember this like 3 weeks from now, I shouldn't even put any more energy into thinking about it today.
Yep.
like basically just like let it go. Like let it just disappear from my mind because it's going to be gone soon anyways. So I'm just like, let it already be gone. And then I tell myself, you know what? You've already made back all the money. The money you lost today, you've already made it back because you know why? You've got a strategy that's consistent, that you've back tested and traded over years and years and years. And you will be taking 100 trades in the future. And that money is all coming back. I just have to follow the rules. And so that helps me kind of get realigned. Like the money is there. I just have to follow the rules, just be disciplined and it's going to come back. So now, so as I said, as we kind of mentioned earlier, if 100,000 traders started the same week as you, most of them haven't made it. You've seen, certainly in your time in the market, a lot of people that have probably blown out and disappeared. What do you think about as some of the leading causes of failure that you've seen in some of the people that have dropped out?
Sure. I'd say number one is blaming the market and not blaming like their own trading. So I do
Mm,
see that a lot where people are definitely not taking the right trades. They're chasing whatever it may be and taking big losses because of that. But then in their review, they're like, oh, this stock was bad or like the market's not good and it's like, okay, certainly that could play into it as well. Certain stocks definitely don't behave right. Some China stocks, whatever, are really terrible. But that for me, I always try to, even if those stocks are bad, I always try to take that personal, like it's on me. I can do better. I'll review my trade. I'm sure there's something majority of the time, there's something I could have tweaked and done better with. And if they don't have that, then they're like, oh, well, it wasn't me. I'm not going to review it really. Let me just try to go in the next day doing the same exact thing. And if they don't have like what we're talking about, thankfully we have a history of profitability and stuff now. But when you're just getting started, you don't really have that to fall back on. So you really have to look into yourself and your own trading. That's why recording your trades and stuff, I think, is like awesome, just because then you're like, okay, I've got the film that I can review, even though maybe that day I'm too mad to review it, which happens. You still have it to review for the weekend or whatever. Then you can kind of replay what happened because as traders, we see so much price action and stuff. It's very hard to know what went wrong exactly and over multiple trades and whatever on whatever day. So yeah, I think a lot of people don't do that either. They don't record their trades or do as much reviewing. So both of those things are bad. And then like what we said at the start, people that come with a lot of money and start with big size, the emotions is like half the battle. I mean, you got, your setups and your charts, and then you've
hmm
got, being able to actually size up and all the losses and emotions that come with the big wins and the big losers. So yeah, those would be the three main things I would say that take people out of the market for good.
Now that
Yeah.
recording the trades, that sort of sounds like something like from a football game, like recording the game, and then so you record your trades, and then what are you doing with like reviewing metrics? Do you track all your metrics and stuff too?
Yeah, I don't go over my metrics quite as much as I used to. It's more just the trading itself. But yeah, I always track my stuff on TraderView. That's really the main one I've always used, and kind of look at my winning days compared to my losing days. And usually I can see a correlation between me either holding my losers too long on those days or not giving my winners enough time, whatever it may be, taking too many trades, certain things like that. So it's definitely good to review your stats. But for me, the best thing has been reviewing my trading, like, and just kind of almost like you said, it's like a professional athlete. I mean, we're in a way like an esport in a sense, I think.
Yeah, no, a
So
lot of people compare me to Tom Brady. I mean, I get that almost every day. People are like, "Wow, Tom Brady," uh, but you're right. And on that sort of similar thing, I've had people who have said, Ross, you've made all this money trading. Why aren't you living on an island somewhere? Why don't you retire? And why do you even show up every day? And so I said, imagine for a second that I made this money playing tennis because I like playing tennis. Um, I made all this money playing tennis, so I should just stop playing tennis. I love tennis and it pays me well. Why would I stop? And that's
yeah.
the thing. If you really love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. So even on so-called vacation, I show up to work every day. I still trade. It's not, I mean, I will acknowledge that certain markets, if you're in just a period that's more volatile, it takes a little bit more out of you. There are ups and downs in trading. Not every day is fantastic, but in totality, it's something I really enjoy. And it feels like, you get this gratification when you solve the puzzle the right way. And then on the red days, well, it's like you need the red days, so then you appreciate the green days that much more. It's just
Yep.
kind of the way it is. So I don't know. I do feel like it is very much performance sport, and like any athlete, there's a joy of the game, and then there's the competitive nature in it of, the reward of when I win, which in this market is very clear translation to making money.
Exactly. And like what you're saying, that makes me think about like even the greats like Tom Brady, like you're saying, or whatever person you want to bring up, LeBron, when they still lose a game today,
Yeah,
Tom Brady's not playing, but when he did, he's still just as mad as we are,
yeah,
at ourselves
yeah,
because, we love the game and it's just like that competitive nature that you have to have.
yeah,
But it's also, yeah, it's like he loves to do that. We love to do what we do. So it's like it comes with it. The red days are good because for me, I learn way more on my red days than I do my green days anyway.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
it's almost like they're refining me to become a better trader. I'm just thinking about the losses as market and tuition basically
yeah.
for me to level up again,
Yeah.
hopefully. So,
Yeah. 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 I agree with that too. The only thing I feel bad about is when they make it all the way to the Super Bowl and then they lose, because that's like, it makes it feel like your whole season was like
yeah.
for nothing in a way, because it's so building on a thing. Whereas for us, it's much more of a marathon. No particular day. I mean, we try never to empower one day to blow up our account or to make our career. So it's like you always get, the next day. So we just get to keep coming back, which actually in a lot of ways makes the stakes a lot lower, where it's very okay to have a losing day because you just come back tomorrow. It's not the Super Bowl. It's nothing crazy. Like, just, I mean, not to be pessimistic, but just give up. Try again tomorrow. Like, today the market's not happening. Is this really a day to push it?
Yeah. And that's the beauty of, the market being open and it's not going to stop. I mean,
Right.
for until we stop trading basically is
Yeah.
whenever we're going to not, be able to see the moves. I
Yeah.
mean, there's always going to be people that are quote unquote gambling and then there's
Sure.
going to be people that are there doing it the right way and
Yep.
stuff. So it's like, I don't think it's like anything. I mean, I'm just glad that we found, and thankfully, like me at a young age and stuff, some people just, everybody's different, but I
Hmm.
got lucky for sure. Like
Hmm.
coming on to, seeing your stuff when I was young and kind of already for my personality and what I wanted to do,
Yep.
it was perfect for me because it's not for everybody for sure.
Yeah.
But for me and for people that love this game and stuff, it's like the best job you could want, right? It's like you're making money and you're loving what you do and you have the flexibility to do it pretty much anywhere you want. So,
So
man,
who would you
yeah,
say that
it's awesome.
trading is not good for?
I
What kind
would
of person?
say in instances like me right now, I have a 5 day red streak. So it's not good for when you beat yourself up too much and you
Mm,
try to let it goes over into your personal life because
yeah.
then I'm like, maybe I'm a little more mad at certain people in my life that I shouldn't be just because I'm angry at my own trading and stuff. So there are definitely people, and I don't do this as much as some people I know that are like, they'll let it ruin their whole day and their whole week or whatever if they have a big red day. And that could get you into I think it could really affect your mental and you could get into a very like dark place in a drawdown or whatever. So I would say there are definitely some negatives, but I think the beautiful part is there's no employees and it's all on you. So it's not like where you're at sleep and then somebody's on a job and they do something that you have no control over. And now you have to go deal with something that, you couldn't even have an effect on. So that's what I love about it. It's all on me. If it's my fault, I can, do my review on that. It's kind of like tennis, right? Where I'm sure, it's just a 1v1 almost. So, whatever you do wrong, you go back, you review your mistakes, and
Right.
then you try again, right?
Right. Yeah. On the emotion side, I think that I think that I hear you on that, and I beat myself up. I can quite a bit on a bad day. A really really bad red day I'll carry that with me for the rest of the day. It could take a couple days to as I make back the loss, also to kind of like process like what I did and kind of like accept it and not try to fight it. Just be like, all right, it is what it is. But I feel like people who do have problems with anger management, trading can be really hard. You flip your desk every time you lose money. That's going to get pretty expensive. So
Yeah.
like the anger management, I think people that and you don't always know this about yourself until you're put in a situation that really presses it, but your ability to kind of like have emotional awareness of like what's happening, because sometimes when the market's difficult, if you're really aware and not emotionally sort of biased, you could just generally say like, okay, this market's a little harder today. Maybe I should trade with less size. But sometimes people who don't quite have that insight, they just get so stubborn and so fixated and frustrated. They just like keep pushing at it, and it's like, dude, like take a step back. Look around. Is anyone making good money today? Like the market's not on your side. Stop. There, there's going to be other days that are better. So, just like you gotta just let it go. But so that to me comes to like that skill of like knowing when to walk away, which I think is learned to a certain extent. So what's your kind of rule of thumb? Like, do you set a max loss, or do you have like a time of day? Like, how do you know when to walk away each day, and when to keep going?
Sure. There's a couple things that I would say. I mean, one of them is like my mental max loss. So
Mm.
whenever I feel like I'm letting my anger take over or something, I mean, people that are watching this that kind of know me, they know that I'm definitely kind of one of the more guys that gets angry and kind of
Okay.
I'll slam my desk if I have a bad trade. But it's one of
Yeah.
those things that I'm still working on myself
Yep.
because, like you're saying, if you don't let that affect you, you can be like, okay, yeah, that wasn't good. Let me lower size. Let me just try to really, work through this instead
Yep.
of just hitting my desk and looking up. And then by the time I look back, I've already maybe missed a good entry on a stock or something. So there's the mental max loss, and then there's the actual max loss for me, which is different for everybody.
Yeah.
For me, I know when a day gets worse than 5, 6,000, I'm not going to recover those days, and I never have in my
Yeah.
career. So it's like, okay, let me not push it. That's my max loss. I'm going to be done. And as hard as it is, because sometimes I do that, and then I see a move that goes crazy, and I'm like, beating myself up for not, but like we were saying, it's a marathon. So as painful as it is, I love to go work out. It's one of those things that I think a lot of traders do to try to get their mind off of whatever it is for
I
the
never
day.
work out.
Oh, no? Well, you have other responsibilities too that can keep your mind off of it. For me, it's like it's either I go play with my dog or I got to
Yeah.
go to the gym because if not, I'm going to just think about my trading all day and it just
Yeah.
sometimes very unhealthy. So,
Well, I will tell you that I do like doing things that require so much of my attention, I can't focus on other stuff. So, and then that can be sports for me. So, like playing tennis or going skiing, riding my bike in the woods, maybe, things, I was going to say driving my car, but that can be only if I'm like on one of my cars with a manual transmission and I'm kind of like really into it. No, not just like on the highway, but that type of stuff, I do like that because it forces you to shift your mind. Like if someone's throwing a ball at you, you got to focus on catching the ball. So in that moment, everything else is sort of out on the back burner. And I need that sometimes because it gives me a chance to recharge. It's almost like that type of activity is like lets my brain rest so I can kind of recharge it. Because otherwise, I'll just ruminate and dwell on that thing, like the loss or the mistake, and I'll just think about it and think about it and think about it. And even if I'm watching TV or whatever, like I'm still just dwelling on it. So like I need to do something that requires enough, kind of cognitive awareness that I can't just be dwelling on the loss. So I think that is important for health. And so like if working out is the thing for you, like that is, it's good to have that thing. Like this is what I'm going to do. And then it's like if I have a red day, all right, I'm going to, this is what I know I'm going to go do for the rest of the day. And then I'll feel better afterwards. Almost invariably you feel better and then you're like, it's water under the bridge.
yeah, and that's also the good thing about having a second job or whatever else you have. When I
Yeah.
had the pressure washing business, that's one of those things that I get so involved with that
Yeah.
I would just forget about anything. And I would just be doing the kind
Yeah.
of monotonous work, but it's satisfying to me. And
Yeah.
I'd be able to just, disassociate myself with that.
Yep.
I'd have a good day, be like, okay, I was productive today still,
Yeah.
which is also something nowadays since I'm not in the field anymore. I'm like, well, what else can I do productive for whatever the
Right.
business or for my house or whatever? And that can also help me get my mind off of trading because then it's like, okay, well, I lost money today, but now I'm going to go, re-mulch my beds, and that's going to
Yep.
save me $500 for paying somebody or
Totally.
whatever, that kind of stuff. So
Yep.
that's the way I kind of like to look at it.
I love that. And that helped me a lot in my earlier years too, because I would trade. Well, so I got to this point where I was like, I need to bring in more discipline. I really should only trade for like the first 2 hours of the day, and then I have to be done. And I just knew that I kept falling into that habit of over trading, giving back profits. So I was like, get in, get green, get out. So I was like, all right, well, I knew that I needed to repaint my house that summer. Or, I mean, I knew I couldn't afford to pay someone else to do it, but it needed to be painted. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go buy a couple gallons of white paint. I'm gonna get, I had a ladder, whatever. I'm just gonna start scraping, chipping the old paint, and that's the thing. And honestly, it was like that the work with pressure washing. It was so relaxing. It was July, August. I'm out there in the sun, just I'm
Yeah.
painting, and I feel like I'm saving myself money. And then I felt even on days where trading might not have been great or I didn't get the win I wanted to, I still had a sense of accomplishment
Yep.
because I think a lot of people they just end up sitting in front of the computer all day long. And I mean, there are times that the market is volatile enough that maybe it calls for that, but really for most beginner traders, I don't think that's the appropriate way to approach it. Less is
No,
more.
I don't think so. Yeah, and I think starting, I go back to like how I started trading 1 hour a day, and then I
Yeah.
would push it to maybe two when I had the ability to. And
Right.
then,
Yeah.
if I kept leaving early and then looking and seeing if there was something, okay, well, maybe I stay with some smaller size and try to add just a little bit.
Yeah.
And then over time, it makes sense. But then there's also those days where I stay too long and I'd give back my whole day and I'd be like, okay, this is why I leave.
Yeah.
So it's like, nothing's perfect, right?
Yeah.
But it's nice to go back to like those rules and like, we're the same way. A couple hours a day is all we need because for the majority of the days in the market, if you stay all day, you're gonna just give back and give
Yeah.
back profit. And I know I do if I stay every day, but those 2 months in the year that I'll stay longer, it's worth it for sure.
So something that I have struggled with a little bit at times is I'll leave, but I'll keep refreshing the market on my phone. So I just keep like refreshing, and I'm like, God dang it! I see the stocks like going higher, and so Danny, who's got his badge also at Warrior Trading, you guys kind of started around the same time. He has this app that he uses where it locks out apps. You can set it to lock out an app so you can't open it. So it's like it helps you like control your usage of apps. But he's like he puts the app in lockout, so he's like he can't even look at it. And he was like it's like as soon as I do that, it's like such a weight off my shoulders. Like I cannot check. And now it doesn't matter what happens without me. I'm not going to keep looking. I'm not going to keep watching.
Yeah.
And it's like now I've got my day back. So yeah, they have some apps like that for like controlling how much time you spend on your phone. And they even have apps like that on the computer where you can put like a time lock on when you can open apps. I don't know if they were created like during the pandemic for like work from home stuff, but anyways, they're effective. And it's just I mean sometimes look, using a little technology to help you kind of like
Yeah.
put on some guardrails, not a bad thing. Because they have this expression that you never think about where a taxi goes after you get out. But when it comes to trading, you get out of a trade and you're just like staring at that stock going higher without you.
Yeah.
And it serves, I mean, in the moment, it doesn't serve a lot of purpose if you've decided to be done. If you're driving and you're at Target running errands, there is no, what are you going to do? Run home? I mean, come on. Maybe that night you could go back and look at the stocks you traded and be like, all right, shoot, okay, maybe I left a little early. And if you're consistently leaving a little early, then make a well thought out, conscientious decision that on days when, I don't know, I hit my daily goal in like 30 minutes and the market's hot, I'm going to trade until I've actually given back 10% off the top. I'm going to try to push it a little harder. And if that means I'm here for 4 hours or 5 hours, whatever it is, once I've given back a little off the top, I'm going to walk. But on days when I struggle to hit my daily goal, I'm out of here at 11 a.m. No questions asked. Like that's that. Whatever. Like you come up with that kind of approach. So it's like there's a time and place for going back and reviewing everything that moved without you, but trading on your phone in the gym. I mean, come on, this is crazy.
Yeah, no, I agree on all that, like, because I do the same thing, and I think I need that app to be honest. Because when I leave,
Oh
sometimes I'm
yeah.
like, oh, let me check, whatever it is, and I see whatever people are talking about or whatever stock that I was trading. I'm like, oh, and it's like
Uh-huh.
that doesn't help me at all. Like you're saying, this that doesn't help me. All it does is make me feel like I shouldn't have left or
Right.
yada yada yada, which is like
Coulda, woulda,
there's
shoulda.
always going to be another move.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's why I always try to like, bring back to like perspective and longevity. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I've still made X amount and I'm
Yep.
okay.
Big
It's
picture.
like whatever. Let me go do what I'm gonna do. And that's a good thing to think about because I struggle with that too. Just like I'm sure a lot of people. It's like
It gives your mind a
hard to
chance to really rest.
yeah, exactly. And then that mental kind of like fuel tank, I guess you could say, is great to be able to recharge, like you're saying, because if
Yeah.
not, you can blow all your mental capital one day and then the next day it could bleed over. It really can.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's, I mean, that it's really interesting because I feel like a lot of, I've noticed this in the past year, especially when we have a stock that'll go up like 1,000% in the afternoon, especially. This drives me crazy because usually I miss it because I'm not trading in the afternoon. And then the next morning, it's like clockwork. The next day is garbage because everyone wants to get the next one, but they're jumping so fast to whatever's moving. It'll pop up real quick because people have FOMO. They don't want to wait. And then it comes all the way back down. And then another one pops up, comes all the way back down. And it's like, you just don't have two in a row. It's like it almost never happens that you get 2 days in a row that's clean. I mean, I'm not going to say never because sometimes it does, but it just feels like more often than not, if there's a huge green, a huge move and you miss it, you're not getting it tomorrow. Tomorrow is like guaranteed that everyone's going to be like erratic and emotional, and the market's going to reflect that, and then, honestly, I even feel that way sometimes in the afternoon, that the winners often leave early, and the people that are fighting it out all the way to the closing bell are the people that are red and are trying to make back money. So here's a question for you. I think a lot of people will appreciate this. What would be the words of wisdom that you either would tell yourself if you could go back to day one you were first getting started, or that you would definitely tell a beginner who's getting started today?
I would say the number one thing, and I say this a lot, is just to get 1% better every day.
Mm,
So, whatever that may be, whether that's studying or just like reviewing a little bit or whatever that is, even when I wasn't, when I was just getting started and I had no money and I wasn't even taking it super, super serious, I would still make sure every day that I was looking at whatever it was, like YouTube video maybe, to try to digest some more information on it. And that's kind of like at the very start where people maybe watching this video are just found out about trading. Just do that. Don't, it's almost like when you're starting a diet, like don't go crazy immediately in it and you might get a little like, you might get tired out, pretty quickly. So I would say just like start small, but keep, it's like everything, like never give up. Like we always go, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And for me, it took a long time, multiple years before I was even consistently profitable. Like I was saying, I mean, it was 2021, I think, is when I first started actually finding consistent gains. So that's 3 or 4 years of me just trying and failing and trying and failing. And there were months that after I blew that account up, I actually did take like 2 weeks off. And just because I couldn't, it was one of those things. But when I took that time off, I was always thinking about the market. And I was like, okay, this is when I know I really like this, and I really think I should stick with it. So, like anything, you stick with it for long enough, you don't have to be the best, but it's about being like the master of one thing instead of like the jack of all trades. So I tried to focus on what I really wanted to do. And throughout all the years of, business and college, it was really my main focus was always trading. So I would just do that stuff because I had to, and, whatever grades for my scholarship. And then I was like, okay, the rest of my time is like fully focused on trading because that's where I see myself. So I would say definitely, set your goals, and writing down my goals was awesome too for me. I didn't start hitting my goals till I started writing them down. And I know multiple people have said that. And yeah, it's good. I have a whiteboard behind me. You
yep,
probably can't
I see that.
see the words on it, but it just has
Oh,
kind of some of my goals for this year. So
nice.
if I don't hit them, that's okay.
Yeah,
But it's still there that I have it in my mind. Okay, this is what I'm working towards. Just 1% each day, right? It doesn't
yeah.
have to be
One,
huge.
see, that's right. 1%. So you guys heard it here first from Timmy. It's only 365% better each year. but no, see, that's the problem. That's what we don't want to do. We want to look at small increments, because I'm the same way. If I set a goal this year of 5 million for profit, and that's like, it's a big goal. I've done it before, but when it's January 1st and you're like, I am $5 million away from my goal, it feels huge. And then I'm like, keep your head down. That's, let's say, $5,000 winners each day, $20,000 a day,
Yeah.
25,000 a day, $100,000 a week, a couple red days here and there, 400 grand a month, 4.8 million a year. I mean, you
Yeah.
just break it into its small bite size. Even when something as big as that, it's just, and I do the same thing when I have a loss too. Like if I lose a lot, I'm not like I need to make it all back. It's like, nope, I'm going to be here for a while. I'm just going to chip away. Each day, I'm just going to chip away, keep my head down, Don't look at the other stuff. Don't even look at how big my drawdown is. Don't look at where I'm at on the month. Don't look at where I'm at on the year. Just focus on base hit, base hit, base hit, following my strategy, my bread and butter. And then you know what? I'm going to look up in 30 days and I'm going to be like, wow, how did I get here? So we finished Q1 and I finished with about 1.2 million. So I'm like, okay, like I'm right on track. I'm averaging like 19,000 a day. I'm a little under, but I also know that who knows, maybe summer will be slow and I'll come up way short of that goal. That's fine. If that's what it is, it's kind of out of my control at a certain point. On the other hand, I'm going to be here every day and maybe there'll be, who knows, I could have my best day of my career this summer. We could have a stock that I don't know what's there. So I'm just going to keep showing up and I'm just going to keep taking it one day at a time. And I think when it comes to learning, taking that same approach, like I'm just going to show up every day. I'm going to practice in the sim. I'm going to track my metrics. I'm going to look at what other people are doing. And I'm going to make a list of, what are they doing? Because this is kind of the way I think about it. Like if I did everything, that someone more successful than me was doing, I would start moving in that direction. Maybe I wouldn't get exactly there, but I'd begin moving in that direction. So I try to identify like what are the things that I should be doing that I'm not doing right now. Maybe it's being more disciplined about when to leave, not looking at stuff in the afternoon, not giving into FOMO, whatever it is. But it's like I'm going to give myself 3 things or 4 things that I'm going to work on this month. And don't give yourself 40 things. Just keep it small. Like these are the things I'm going to work on right now. And I'm just going to try to have, so after 5 red days in a row, to me, like the way I approach that, because I've done that before too. I think 6 might have been the most I had, but 6 or 7, whatever, red days in a row. At a certain point, it's like, all right, this is getting silly. Tomorrow, be patient, wait. And if I take one trade and I get green, just walk away. Just break the streak. And then the next day it's like, all right, I've broken the streak, so that's good. And just like one trade. And by limiting my trades, I'm focusing on higher quality. Now I know with commission-free trading, that might not be exactly the way you want to approach it. But you kind of get that idea of like, all right, just take the temperature down, slow down. Because next thing you know, you get 5 green days in a row, your confidence is like night and day from where you are after 4 or 5 red days.
Yep.
Even if they're small green days.
Yeah, and it's crazy how much that can affect you. I mean, in these red days, after the first couple, the last 2 probably were due to the first couple and me not being like me thinking, okay, I'm not, in the right headspace that I was, and I try to like focus back, but then I'm still doing kind of some of those same mistakes. So it's like, okay, maybe that's part of it too. In my reviewing, am I not actually changing, the little tweaks that I need to change?
Right.
But also, and I go back to this too, it's like being 1% better doesn't exactly have to be in trading too, because for me and for traders, like having discipline, it kind of goes into every area of your life. So if I'm not disciplined in other areas, whether it be my diet or the gym or whatever, then usually my trading is not very disciplined. So that's kind of some of those things that I'm like, okay, maybe I didn't do great trading, but what can I do outside of trading that I'm getting better at too, which is everything kind of goes together. If my sleep, my diet, all this stuff, like you used to say, did you eat well? Did you sleep well? Do you have a couple stocks on watch? All this stuff. Like I know I still today, like I have that in my mind just because I've heard it so much. And that's a great thing. It's like, that's what you start your day with, like centered, kind of back to, almost like you have a job or whatever, you're getting in your truck and you're about to start a work day. It's like normal. Like, if you're going to, work the best, you kind of want to make sure everything leading up to that is in the right place too.
Yeah, I agree with that. Something that you said a little bit earlier that's coming back to me, you said, let me think, how'd you say it? It was about trying to keep your P&L close to your all-time highs as much as you can and not go into these deep drawdowns. And that's something that I also think about quite a bit, because what I find is that when I have that first big loss, like, okay, you have a trade that is big red, it's a bummer. And then the second day you go even more red. And now you're like, okay, I've got 2 choices. I either keep being aggressive, which clearly is not working, or I sort of slow down. And I'm usually after 2 red days, I slow it down. And then because I'm slowed down, I'll either have a small red day or a small green day. And the worst thing that'll happen is on that 3rd day, you have a stock that goes up like 700%, but you're trading with small size. So you don't make a lot on it. And I always remind myself, well, That's the cost that I pay of those first 2 days, which were mistakes. You look, the first day might have just been, maybe I was a little overconfident, whatever. But the second day when I really pushed it too hard, even after being red, that was a mistake. And now I'm kind of in this sort of like trader rehab where I have to trade with smaller size because I got to mitigate risk. But there's the additional cost that comes during these next few, 4 or 5 days while I'm trading with smaller size. And that's the necessary cost because you got to prevent spiraling down. But all of this could have been avoidable if at the very beginning, when I started to go red, I had had that presence of mind to say, pump the brakes before you go too deep. So like every time I have that drawdown, it like reminds me, you know, and I mean, I try to keep those drawdowns as minimal as far between as I can. But when they happen, it's like, okay, if I go back to here, this is the spot where I should have walked away sooner.
Yeah, no, I agree with that because I'm the same way, and that's why I was saying that. I don't know why I even let it snowball like this, but it's just even though I'm seasoned, whatever, we can still get into these, like bad habits and doing
Yeah.
stuff that I shouldn't. But that's exactly what I mean to do when I come back in, because no trading tomorrow, Good
Yeah.
Friday, but on Monday,
Yeah.
small size, take those base hits. But you're absolutely right. Let's say there's a stock that goes crazy, it's gonna hurt for sure,
Yeah.
but it's on me because of what I did to myself the previous 5 days or
Yep.
whatever. So, and that's a good thing because when I am at all-time highs and I'm swinging high and I'm making a lot of money, there's somebody else in the opposite side of that always that I'll
Mm.
see somewhere that's like, okay, they're having a tough time
Yeah.
even though a bunch of stocks are moving high. So
Right.
no matter who you are, everyone's in kind of one of these cycles of the
Yeah.
journey, and I'm kind of here. But once you kind of get that confidence back, you go over and then you get over too confident, and then
Yeah. Yep.
it's good though
Yeah.
because trading, a lot of it's mental,
Yeah.
but it's beauty and a curse for sure.
Yeah.
So
Well, this has been really awesome. I know everyone tuning in, I think, has probably loved this. So you guys, I hope you hit that thumbs up. I hope you subscribe to the channel. And Timmy, thank you for being here. This has been really great. Thank you.